Hello, everybody, and welcome to day one lessons of our social psych class. And so today we're going to be talking about the social self, and we'll kind of continue this unit on throughout. And as we think about the social self, we're really thinking about how we view ourselves, how we understand ourselves in comparison to others, and how that kind of works out that we become to know who we are. Okay, so let's get started here. All right. So, as we think about self awareness, that's what we're going to talk about today. And that's going to lead us off in our conversation and our discovery of the social self. Okay. So, by the end of this lesson, you should know the definition of self awareness. You should know what the mirror self recognition test is. And then you should also have some ideas about why we care about self awareness. So, those are the three things that by the end of this lesson and then the video that's with the activity, these are the three questions that I want you to have answers to. So the first one is self-awareness. As we think about self-awareness, so this starts to become really like kind of bigger thinking, right? We're thinking about the knowledge or the understanding that we are a separate entity from other people and objects in our world. And it's a state of being conscious of our own existence. So there's this idea that I, Jordan Frost, know that I am an individual and a person separate from you, separate from this computer, separate from this headset, that I am a thing and that I exist in this space. That's what we think about self-awareness, the knowledge of self, that you know that you are a being within a larger kind of world. Okay. So that's the definition of self-awareness. And that's going to guide as we talk through the next few weeks about the social self. And so one of the first things that people did to kind of discover when do we get self-awareness is Darwin was doing some experiments, Charles Darwin, on his son, and he wanted to know if he could watch his son and find out if he could imitate him. And what he figured is that if he could imitate, right, if he could repeat what he saw, then he actually would know that he was a separate being, that he could see something and then he could do it back. And that has to show an awareness of self to actually do the action of imitation. So we have in 1977, a study was done that found a 2 to 3 week old infant, crazy, right, was actually imitating mouth opening, finger moving, and a tongue appearing between lips. So kind of like, putting your tongue between your lips there. That they were able to do that in 1977. In 1989, a similar study from the same authors found a 42-minute-old infant was doing imitations. 42 minutes that the baby was able to imitate what it saw. And then a more recent study in 2002 found that infants show self-awareness by smiling more and looking longer at pictures of others compared to themselves. So consider, you look at a picture of yourself and you're like, all right, that's me. Then you smile more. And so the study believed that because the baby smiled longer at the other photos, it was aware that that photo was not them, that it was someone else. And that showed a mark of awareness. The question that we have to think about is, does imitation suggest awareness? Right? Does the act of repeating what you see show that you are aware of yourself? And that's where we get to this next step in those studies. So the mirror self-recognition test, you can see this monkey here who is kind of poking around at their center spot there. These tests were designed because imitation does not conclusively say that yes, infants have self-awareness. Like just their ability to imitate did not necessarily mean that they were completely self-aware. And so what scientists developed was the mirror self-recognition test. Now, some of you who may have seen this, where elephants are looking in the mirror, or different animals or babies are looking in the mirror. Okay, so what they would do is they put a mark on the animal's forehead. And they thought if the animal touched the mark on their forehead, then that meant that they had self-recognition. That by touching it, they acknowledged, right? They look in the mirror and they acknowledge that, okay, me touching, I'm trying to look at myself to make sure I'm touching the right thing. There we go. Me doing this in reflection of the mirror shows that I know that that dot is on me and that I am in the mirror. Okay. And we saw studies done on elephants, dolphins, whales. So we have multiple studies where those animals do show self-awareness, but not all animals showed self-awareness. And so that was kind of a way for us to differentiate between maybe animals. We know dolphins are known for having brains and other animals, and I don't know what that is. It looks like a little supernova, kind of cool. Maybe it's like Sonic going through the ring. Okay, I got distracted. Um, Overall, these two tests, so imitation test and the mirror self-recognition test, are some of our earliest attempts to understand and explain whether or not humans are aware of them or when humans become aware of themselves. Okay, so we use that on babies, and then we said, well, can animals do this also? And one of the questions I want you to think about is, if an animal can do this, does that prove that this animal knows that they are in the mirror, right? Is that conclusive? And if there's certain species of animals that do show self-awareness and others that don't, what does that say about that class of animals? Okay, kind of think about that, ponder on that a little bit. So why do we care about self-awareness? Well, we care about it because, one, it can be a measure of intelligence, right? We can use this to figure out, are humans in fact this separate other class of being, or are there animals that have this same ability to know who they are, where they exist in space? I kind of think about my cat, and I'm like, does my cat think about his own mortality, right? Or is his brain just like food, water, play, sleep, right? Which is probably likely, but we don't know. And if my cat does think about questions of mortality and the size of the universe, does that mean that my cat is on equal intelligence as I am or close to it, right? Those are the types of studies that we're interested in. It can also be an explanation of for behavior, okay? If someone is self-aware, if someone has certain thoughts and beliefs about themselves, does that dictate the way that they treat other people? We can also think about evolutionary relationships. Over time, as species have evolved, right, one of the areas of psych that we think about and the perspective is evolutionary. If there's a subset of animals, if there's a class of animals that does have self-awareness and a class of animals that doesn't, does that tell us something about how they evolved over time, right? Is that an indicator? We don't know that conclusively, but these studies can kind of help us think about that and give ground to either side. And then just natural curiosity, right? Like, that's just something that's cool to think about, that's interesting to think about, and can kind of help us frame our minds around the relationship between animals and humans, the capacity for animals to think and perform, and those types of things. So, in a nutshell, that's a little introduction to self awareness, and that's going to kick us off into the social self unit. So, I hope you enjoy the video that I've posted in the weekly plan. I think it's a really cool, funny video. And you can find lots more videos of the mirror recognition test. So I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day.